Also, teaspoon. Jam walnuts? Oh no, oh no. Hi. You might be wondering who this person is. So, this is the first video I've ever done with a face cam. The only reason I'm doing it with a face cam is because the game I'm playing is really questionable. Not questionable. Ah, such a bad idea. So, a little context. Me and my friends, one thing we love to do is to go onto Steam and look at the trending and upcoming pages. Because you can find some really interesting stuff sometimes. This was one of those games, and we thought it was one of those goofy cabs that we would just make fun of, so we pulled the game up. And it wasn't. Or at least it didn't. Okay, the page makes it look like it's one of those games we just make fun of and move along. But the reviews say something else. Say that it's not what it looks like. And that it's worth a shot. So I'm here to give it a shot. Anyways, no more explaining. The reason I have a face cam this time is quite literally I want you to see my genuine reactions because I think it's going to be really funny. Alright, let's get into it. I already have an achievement. The sound was driving him crazy. Onto his muffled thuds were resonating through his head with dull pain. The pain wasn't too strong, nothing unbearable, but that sound. More than anything else, if I'm reading this enthusiastically, it's because I read everything unenthusiastic. This is just how it's going to be. More than anything else, he wanted the sound to just stop. Thud. Nevertheless, the knocking sound didn't end. He knew it well enough because himself was the third word in thud, 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 thud. The noise of his slipper hitting the rear of his desk over and over again was like a huge, fluffy moth frantically ramming against the window of the glass. He wanted plenty of things. He wanted to pay the rent in time this month, not to displease his landlady again. He wanted to finish the script, at least in draft, because the draft is way better than nothing. Something one can work with. And he wanted to sleep. No, not quite that. The problem, a serious one, was that he didn't really sleep. He leaned back in his chair, rubbed his eyes, eyeballs until dancing pale lights appeared. Of course, he took the sleeping pills. When a healthy 8-hour sleep gives way to a not-so-healthy 5-hour nap, then a 3-hour eye-shut break, and then goes away entirely, you stop thinking how this will impact your liver. You just want to sleep. You need to sleep, especially if you have always taken an advance payment for the first part of a gig, and the goddamn text won't just write itself. However, if the text could in fact write itself somehow, he would probably lose his job. He didn't have any illusions in this regard. As soon as a neural network gets smart enough, he and dozens of other ghost writers will vanish into morning mist of a new era in literature. He didn't have much of a name or connection, only some skill and a knack to meet deadlines for the most part. The client was content with this, and he was content with the pay. So everything went well until the pills started failing him. Blam. This time, The tick got too strong. His foot jerked and hit the board with a very notable pain. So he just slammed his foot on the wall like, I can't sleep. Ah! Seemed like even seemed like he even heard his toes cracked. Okay. Side note, I am dyslexic, so reading is not possible. He muted a short curse and rolled the chair away from the desk, although he knew now that his attention was not fixed on the blank text file, the tick should go away all by itself. It's funny how consciousness is detached from the body. He often thought about it, especially while having insomnia. It's like you're working as a team, but your partner starts pulling something. You seem to have common goals, but when all hell breaks loose, you are suddenly left alone with it, and your partner is most interested in watching the fire than fighting it. In the end, you have no idea what's on his mind. Well, at least there weren't any more knocking. Good. Yeah, I just broke my foot. Oh, am I actually playing now? A small window at the far side of the room flashes white for a moment. A storm. Now that he thought about it, the day was hot. The vicious, stagnant air still filled the room. This and the barely audible squeak of an overheated network filter, he became sensitive to such things when he couldn't sleep for a long time, made the entire room seem to vibrate a little, like a cocoon that's about to hatch. Actually, that did sound like a good line. He rolled back to the table and was about to write that thought down and paused over the keyboard. He remembered the individual words and the general idea, but the sense had already slipped away. This time the white light seemed to enter the room. The thunder followed, resembling a low grunt roar of something large and famished. Good Lord. He called to God way too often for someone who never goes to church. Just a habit he inherited from his mother. A furious patter of raindrops pounded on his window. There was no way he could work like this. What do you mean? I love it when it rains. I wish it was raining now. Not now, but maybe it's for the best. Since he was a little boy, he slept well during the storm. Had to seize the moment. He groped for a packer of sleeping pills. It's nice to have your working tools at hand. Popped the pills into his mouth, opened the window to hear the steady patter of rain. That's how you do it. Just crack that window, listen to the nice raindrops. Little thunder, nice chill comes in. It's great. He could tell by the sound the water had flooded the windowsill and was trickling down to the floor. He decided that was a small price to pay. He felt a pleasant chill of his clothes beneath his cheeks. The waving haze was gradually fading from the room, yet the sleep did not come. He tried to take off his shoes, change positions, take a pillow cover to himself, throw the pillow away to the other side of the room. Nothing helped. Okay, are we gonna get to any spooks? He just laid there with his eyes closed, and through his closed eyelids felt heavy. He knew it was an illusion. All in vain. He's not sleeping. He can't sleep. Thud. At first he thought he was imagining things. Thud, thud, thud. Sometimes the knocking paused, but it never stopped completely. The sound came from below, from the first floor. Someone was banging intensely on the door. and with each thud he could feel the rage building up like a tight knot of pain around his stomach. He is trying to sleep. Is it really that hard to just leave a man alone? At least at night, at least in the house that he pays for, specifically so that nobody would bother him. He opened his eyes, easy as he thought, sparing his feet, and ran downstairs. Something was boiling inside. Halfway to the door, he took a turn to the cupboard and pulled out an old baseball bat. He wasn't likely to actually use it. He asked himself if he would as he reached for the door handle. Okay, look, I know it's late at night, someone's banging on the door. That's irritating. You don't need a baseball bat. He wants the night guest to learn it. What the hell? The rain was still pouring, or rather, it was actually getting stronger, as his mother would say, and the floodgates of heaven tore open. His mother used to say a lot of things. That was one of the lists of reasons why he had to rent his overpriced house. There were anyone could start banging on the door in the middle of the night. A cat, for example. What the hell? And so it begins. Why does she have to be a cat lady? He said it again, this time loud. A cat was standing on his porch. That's not a cat. He looked like a purebred British short hair in all respects except for the color. It's not a cat! Aside from the smoky gray hair, it seemed as if she was dropped into a vat of white paint while her lower part was dripping into a black one. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. What have I done? Wet fur clung to her smell rather skinny body dripping with water. The cat could have probably slipped into the house as soon as the door opened, but instead she froze, as if waiting for her host to say something. I feel like the easy route would just to be refuse. Let's let the demon in. Let's get to the... Whoa. It was a cold night, much colder than one thinks. He didn't feel angry anymore. He stepped aside, freeing the doorway. The cat didn't move. So you don't want to, huh? He was about to say fine, then close the door to go back to the second floor and lie in a suffocating half-sleep until morning. But he finally realized what was wrong. The bat. He threw it away, aiming for the sofa, but missed. The bat clattered on the floorboards. The cat followed it into the darkness with her round yellow eyes. The sounds didn't frighten her. He sighed. I won't hurt you. Come on if you want. The cat raised her eyes at him. For the first time, he actually saw. He couldn't help admiring how big and yellow they were. The cat's pupils were also large, incredibly. Why can't it just be an actual cat? Why does it have to be a person? Why? Just as he was about to close the door for the second time, the cat murmured something and fluttered into the house, butting him with her wet head as she passed by. He smiled. At the very moment his line had ended. If the landlady found out, and he was sure she would, he'd have to look for a new place to live. There are plenty of lonely, bored seniors in the neighborhood, he thought. And they only have two hobbies, observing and reporting. The subject and recipient aren't that important. As someone who's lived around a lot of old people, yes, they're so bored. They have nothing to do. Well, it's fine. Maybe he'd leave the suburbs. Maybe he'd move into an apartment since since him getting privacy didn't work out anyway. The rain was getting stronger still. He closed the door. Okay, so I have a cat. The cat explored the house with caution, curiosity, stopping by different objects as if trying to understand their purpose. Watching that was amusing, so amusing he even forgot about the stain. What stain? When he remembered, he had already spread out a dark spot of water in the place where the cat clung to him. Oh, the cat's wet, that's right. He pulled the wet clothes away from his body and stared at it blankly for a moment. Then almost groaned aloud. The cat was shocked. She was probably got a lot of dirt in the house. Look, that cat's dirty. He decided not to turn on the lights. He had enough disappointment for the night. Instead, he went to get a towel. Ah, God. We're getting to it. The cat turned her head to the voice in frozen place. She was examining the TV, a lifeless black mirror panel. Her face he didn't even touch since moving in. In the reflection, the cat herself looked black. She gave him a long, appreciating look, and then, with a sudden grace, toward him, definitely avoiding the object. He was surprised. Maybe the cat decided he was more interesting than the TV, or maybe she acted out of respect for her host's will. Finally, someone can actually negotiate with. Suddenly, he thought how nice it would be to crawl under the blanket with a warm ball of fur. It would surely have helped him fall asleep. When does the horror start? As a child, he had a cat, gray, huge, brash, immediately ugly, and equally beloved. He often fell asleep hugging him. The cat's name was Timo, and he faded into a June many years ago. So his cat died. The cat bumped her with her wet head against him once more. He thought the cat usually shake off the water themselves, but perhaps not always. Hey, easy there, you're all wet. The cat took a look at him with a moon-shaped eye and murmured something again. Did something about it. He smiled to go out to work. He had to squeeze the fur thoroughly, so the towel soon turned into a wet rag. Should he bathe the cat? Actually, it was bad to bathe cats. And I'm not just doing that to avoid nonsense. Never mind, this can wait. The cat's fur wasn't very long, but it was fluffy enough to hide her sunken sides. He was once again surprised at how skinny she was. He was even more surprised when he noticed a collar with a small locket. So you do have a home. In this case, you also have something. You have also shitty owners, I have to say. The cat curled up on a wet towel in his lap, slowly dozing off. He could feel the familiar, looting vibe emerging him. Suddenly, he put the towel with the cat on it away. I should get you some food. Let me see what I have. He got up with just a tad bit difficulty, nothing he couldn't handle. Still, his body felt unusually heavy and unwieldy. He had to give the cat something to eat. He will lie down afterwards, and then, hell, maybe he'd even fall asleep. Maybe he should have gotten a cat for much earlier, a ball of fur with a pair of moon eyes, and his kid, and always negotiate with. And that's about it. That's kind of funny. He could have avoided all the suffering if only he had a cat. Okay, his obsession with the cat is really starting to get weird. The kitchen blurred before his eyes. He got to the refrigerator and opened it. squinting from the light and leaning on the door way harder than he was supposed to. If the landlady was around at this time, she would have told him exactly so. Don't lean on the door. After all, this is her house and her refrigerator, and everything should be neat and tidy in case she has to move new tenants in. Perhaps the landlady would have even warned him about the milk. The milk itself is completely harmless, unless, of course, you are allergic to lactose. But there is a special kind of lactose-free milk, right? What? What matters is the bottle. Bottles, much like cats, can vary greatly, but this particular one was made of glass. If only the landlady was here, she would have probably told him not to touch the bottle. What? Hold on. I've rented places before. Yes, they can get upset about the appliances because you're kind of borrowing them, but the stuff in the appliances is yours. Because he's falling on the floor and the bottle might break and then milk will spill. Cat, or rather, it was her who found him, and timely. He was lying on the floor. He had been lying there for some time, and would have been lying still if he hadn't felt the light touch of something hot and rough on his cheek. It was almost like a dream. Although, of course, comparing with fainting isn't quite correct, no matter how you look at it. The floor beneath him was surprisingly hard, cold, and wet. He felt all those three qualities clearly. He was afraid to imagine what would happen if he tried to move. But he had to move, one way or another. At least to see what's up, because something hot and rough was still sliding up his cheek, gradually creeping up to his ear. He felt a warm and then cautious bite. It's a cat, it's a cat, it's a cat, it's a cat. Ouch. He jumped on the spot. A shadow rushed to the side and then calmly began to lap milk from the puddle. This is what the internet's into. The internet loves this. The cat. What are you doing? The cat looked at him briefly, licked her lips. It's also Japanese. No need to be this dramatic. You are lying around idly and you're not even a cat. See? Besides, you're soaked in milk. Well, you're right. I let you down and had to get my punishment. I let myself down too. It's a horror game. It's a horror game. Good Lord. Now there's cleaning to do until the next advent, like his mother would have said. I'll get a rag. Stay here. Don't ruin what's left of the kitchen while I'm gone. The cat watched him go with a skeptical look. The cat's talking to him. Aren't you the one who's been causing all the trouble so far? When he returned with the bucket, the cat was gone. Uh-oh. What? How to bake what? Whoa, what is happening? Did you take the pills? Scratch out the entrail. What? The Egyptians widely used honey and preservative. What is happening? Also, teaspoon. Jam walnuts. Oh no, eyes. Oh no. Before baking, put a teaspoon of butter on top of. Microwave 5 to 7 minutes at full power. I gotta admit. Oh. Don't listen to them scream. This is. And nothing happened. Don't worry about a thing. The next time he saw her was in a few days or maybe a week. He always had bad sense of time, especially when he was immersed in his work. He still couldn't sleep, but at least he was making some progress with the script. It was a narrative game project, as the customer called it, but actually meant do whatever you have to finish it on time, else forget about the payment. And so he did, although he was resentful and got in the way a lot. The reason for those feelings was the cat. He knew how stupid that was, but he couldn't help it. He forgave her for the bite almost immediately. That wasn't a thing. Well, cats do something called, it's called like love nips, where they like nibble you. I've been love nipped before. It doesn't really hurt, but it can be very surprising when you're not paying attention. It was bitter about how the cat ran away despite him trying his best to take care of her. Dude, you dried it off and tried to give it milk. She was nowhere to be found in the house, so he immediately thought about an open window on the second floor. Maybe she would have closed it. He should have closed it. He dwelled on that thought for a while. He even approached the window at some point, but in the end he decided to do nothing about it. He was hoping that there was no shame in that. It's not the shame as you turn up 10 and start eyeing it's not the same as you turn up 10 and start eyeing girl. Oh, okay. I thought the grammar was bad. He just settled himself on the sofa with some book. Some was the words, as he couldn't remember a thing from the cover. Even though he read the title several times, the symbols were floating before his eyes, and of course he couldn't make out a word. No wonder, considering he didn't sleep at all. When you think about it, it was surprising he could write in this state. Either way, he was barely following the book, so he wasn't upset at all when a fluffy head bumped his head. Hey, I'm trying to read here. And you don't seem to be getting anywhere. Why does it matter anyways? Better scratch me right here. Pet the cat. He complied. I petted the cat. You were absent for so long. I thought you wouldn't be back. Then why didn't you close the window upstairs? There's a big difference between expectations and hopes. He learned that well. Why did you leave? Did I do anything wrong? The cat stayed silent. Well, let's be happy the cat's back. Alright, it doesn't matter that much. I'm happy to have you back. After all, there was no point in his grudge from the start. Nobody gains anything by holding on small grudges and staying blind to what they really feel. Absolutely. He wouldn't have won anything. It's not a damn lottery. The cat rubbed against his arm again. He put the book down and gently placed her on his lap. The locket around her neck, unexpectedly cold, touched his skin. Then he got a hunch. Did you go home? I have no home. Well, someone must be caring for you if they put that collar on you. Sometimes a collar is just a collar. Don't you know? This time it was him who stayed silent. The cat buried her head in his stomach. Want me to take it off? No. It's mine now. Besides, it's easier this way if I catch someone's eye on the street. He nodded because if you think about it, that was a reasonable choice. Sure. The cat's fur was thick and smooth, very pleasant to touch. He wanted to bury his face in it. Find out what it smelled like. What she smelled like. Do you have a name? Of course. Everything has a name. And what's yours? The cat looked at him carefully with bright yellow eyes as if saying, take a guess. But she didn't actually say anything. On her locket there was a small engraving of a crescent moon that was dimly shining in the pale light coming out of the window. Selene. I think I'm pronouncing that right. The cat looked up at him. Her pupils flicked into the two full moons in an ellipse. Then she rubbed against his arm one last time and stood up, stretching, arcing her back. Don't close the window on the second floor. I won't. She left, but the name stayed with him in and around the house. Selene. So hummed the glass white moon. She whispered the long shadows of the branches outside the window. Oh, let's go the full obsessive route, because this guy's clearly obsessing. Let's just obsess over this cat. Why not? What is Selene? For some reason, the question bothered him. He vaguely remembered it had something to do with the mythology. I thought it was just a name. Such things never really caught his attention, but unfortunately he knew someone who could turn to. What is happening? Am I supposed to be doing something? Huh? What? Where did I go? What? Meanie, you know I can't stand them. And you know it's me who will have to take care of it after all. You basically living in the office. Ethan never liked cats. And the dog too. And the dogs too. Not much of a difference. He didn't like the very idea of keeping a predator at home, even a small one. He couldn't quite explain, right? Interesting. Hope sighed. What is this? I just saw it get red. Wait, can I scroll? Can I scroll all the way back to like the freaky... I'm guessing this is where the real mysteries start unraveling. Alright, well, we'll exit that. Sorry, she closed the tab with the care website, then slapped her husband lightly on the shoulder. We're married? Even so, the face of the Persian cat, deeply depressed and equally concave, still lingered in his mind. Ethan held up his hand in a constantly gesture. Whoa, what is happening? Stop that. Skip save. Oh. Okay, I'm going to save it real quick. We're going to just stop here for a moment. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going after this recording. It's just this recording is taking a long time. It's going to take a long time to edit. So I'm just going to break this down into another part. This is already getting more fascinating than I thought it would be. And we're just going to see where this train ride goes. I'll see you in the next part.